Hey everyone, let's jump right into today's explainer. We're unpacking some seriously fascinating source material that decodes 18 scientifically proven secrets to creating a massive, unbreakable fitness reserve for a vibrant 100-year life. You know, when you look at regions with the highest concentrations of centenarians, it turns out they aren't just getting lucky with their genetics. They're actually applying some very specific daily biological principles. So we're going to explore the exact lifestyle habits, nutritional strategies, and environmental stressors that build a truly resilient body. To make sense of all these secrets, the source material groups them into 6 main pillars. First, lifespan versus health span. Second, lessons from the centenarians. Third, mastering your metabolic health. Fourth, the science of hormesis. Fifth, rest, recovery, and connection. And lastly, activating your longevity genes.
All right, kicking things off with section 1, lifespan versus health span.
Now, we usually just assume that modern medicine, like vaccines and antibiotics, is the only reason we aren't checking out at age 30 like folks did back in the cave era. But if you look at the historical timeline, the biggest historical spike in longevity actually came from plumbing and sanitation engineers. Literally, before modern medicine took over, it was cleaning up cities' sewage systems that eliminated waterborne diseases like cholera, which had tragically been wiping out over half of kids before they even hit 15. So our modern baseline for living longer actually stems from environmental hygiene, not just medical intervention.
It all boils down to this crucial question. Do we want to manage disease, or do we want to create health? Managing disease basically just means taking medications to artificially suppress your symptoms, like taking a pill to force your blood pressure down while ignoring the root cause. Creating health is a totally different ballgame. It's about optimizing your actual fitness reserve, jacking up your VO2 max, and building a body that thrives, entirely free from dementia and frailty, rather than just surviving on life support.
Moving right along to section 2, lessons from the centenarians. When you put our standard Western habits side by side with longevity hotspots, the differences are wild. Take Japan, for instance. They log over 6,000 steps a day and load up on soil-grown veggies packed with natural probiotics. But get this, the most surprising data point? Hong Kong. Despite their insane longevity rates, they eat over 320 pounds of meat per person per year, mostly pork and beef. That completely shatters the popular narrative that you literally have to avoid meat to live a long time.
Over in Japan, a cornerstone habit is the 80% fullness rule. See, when you stuff yourself to 100% capacity, you totally overload your mitochondria. It creates this massive metabolic bottleneck that causes oxidative damage, but stopping at 80% protects that cellular machinery. Plus, they usually follow this up with a quick post-meal walk. It acts like a natural, side-effect-free blood sugar medication.
So what specific foods are they eating to build such an ironclad gut microbiome? Well, they aren't eating highly processed soy isolates. They go for fermented soy, which is loaded with vitamin K2, a nutrient that literally keeps calcium out of your arteries and shuttles it straight into your bones. They also eat tons of seaweed, bringing in 9 times the iodine of a standard diet to balance estrogen. Throw in raw fermented foods like kimchi and sauerkraut, and you're introducing specialized microbes that build up your gut's defense system. Top it off with green tea for those anti-inflammatory phytonutrients, and you've got serious cellular protection.
Which leads us perfectly into section 3. Mastering your metabolic health.
You know, a lot of people rely heavily on standard blood sugar or A1C tests to gauge their health. But here's the catch. Those are actually lagging indicators. Your blood sugar can look perfectly fine on paper for 10 to 15 years, while massive metabolic damage is quietly happening behind the scenes. Why? Because your body is aggressively pumping out massive amounts of insulin to force that sugar out of your blood. Fasting insulin is your true early warning indicator for insulin resistance, which we know is the root cause behind obesity, fatty liver, and type 2 diabetes.
So what's the magic number? You absolutely want your fasting insulin under 7, or ideally under 5. And the quickest way to wreck that number is with hidden starches. We're not just talking about candy. We're talking about refined breads, pastas, and cereals. Once inside your body, those industrial starches act exactly like pure sugar, skyrocketing your insulin until your cells just stop responding to it entirely.
This directly impacts how we fuel our cellular energy factories, our mitochondria. To keep that biochemical assembly line humming, you really need to do 2 things. First, ditch the toxic seed oils like soy, corn, and canola oil because they physically damage mitochondrial function. Second, give your body the right raw materials. This process requires high-quality amino acids from animal meat, plus a whole complex of B vitamins, QQ10, and trace minerals like zinc and magnesium. If you're missing those, the whole factory just stalls out.
Okay, let's dive into Section 4, the science of hormesis.
Listen, if you want to make it to 100 in great shape, you can't live your life in a perfectly comfortable sterile bubble. That's where hormesis comes in. It's this fascinating biological principle where a short, controlled burst of stress forces your body to adapt, fires up your survival genes, and builds a massive fitness reserve. It essentially breaks you down just enough so that you bounce back way stronger.
So, how do we actually pull this off? Well, 48 to 72-hour fasts trigger a process called autophagy, which is literally your body's internal recycling program for cleaning out damaged proteins. Then there's temperature stress. Saunas mimic the cardiovascular perks of exercise, while brief cold therapy shocks your system into turning on deep repair genes. You can even use hypoxia, which is restricted oxygen training, to force your body into building new capillaries. And of course, getting actual sun exposure is a fantastic stressor that produces vitamin D. For a bulletproof immune system, the data points to keeping that vitamin D right between 60 and 80 nanograms per milliliter.
But hey, stress only works if you recover from it. Which brings us to Section 5, rest, recovery, and connection. Look, if you aren't sleeping, none of these other 17 secrets will save you. To snag those crucial 7 to 8 hours of deep, brain-detoxifying delta wave sleep, you need a solid protocol. It kicks off in the morning. Get 20 minutes of actual sunlight to capture that blue light spectrum, which locks in your circadian clock. Keep the caffeine in check during the day so your adenosine receptors, the pressure valve that makes you feel sleepy at night, can do their job. At night, slap on some blue light blockers. Take some magnesium glycinate an hour before bed to chill out your muscles. And honestly, this is huge. Drop your room temperature to between 62 and 68 degrees. Your core temp actually has to drop a bit to initiate that deep sleep. But physical rest is only half the equation. Emotional recovery is absolutely crucial. We literally cannot ignore the data showing that severe loneliness acts as a massive, devastating physical stressor. Broken heart syndrome is a prime example. The acute stress of severe isolation or losing a loved one can spike your heart attack risk by up to 2,000% in just the first week. Staying socially connected isn't just a nice to have, it's a profound, life-saving biological buffer against stress. And finally, Section 6, activating your longevity genes. As the years tick by, one of the biggest threats we face is sarcopenia, that age-related loss of muscle mass. If you lose your muscle, your metabolism absolutely crashes, and frailty sets in fast. Preventing this is entirely non-negotiable. It requires hitting the weights for resistance training, packing in enough high-quality animal protein, and maintaining optimal hormone levels, like testosterone, to ensure tissue repair and metabolic health. Now here's where it gets incredible. The FOXO3 gene. This is the holy grail longevity gene found highly expressed in centenarians. And the best part? You can actively turn this gene on through your daily habits. How? By stacking those stressors we just talked about. Intermittent fasting, running on ketones, doing high-intensity interval training, and hitting the sauna or cold plunge. You can also flip the switch with specific nutrients like vitamin B3 from red meat, curcumin from turmeric, sulforaphane from broccoli sprouts, and those green tea phytonutrients. You literally have the power to express these survival genes. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I've got to leave you with this final thought. Take a really hard look at your daily routines. Based on everything we just covered, your fasting insulin, your mitochondrial fuel, and how you balance stress and recovery, are your habits simply managing a slow decline, or are you actively building an unbreakable 100-year fitness reserve? The science is clear, but the choice is all yours. Thanks for hanging out with me, and keep building that reserve.